This is Weather or Not.
And welcome into this special edition of Weather or Not here on this Wednesday as we watch Aaron thankfully make its closest pass 300 to 400 miles offshore of the Grand Strand. Talk about a close call.
Yeah, it's about as close as you can get.
Yeah.
Obviously, one part of the South Carolina really not dealing with too much. As you work into North Carolina, impact's going to be felt. In fact, let's kind of just recap because we know it's Wednesday, giving you the first alert on Aaron because what a storm Aaron has been.
Yeah, it certainly has. Obviously, the rapid intensification we saw over the weekend, and you can usually tell that a hurricane is rapidly intensifying by the amount of lightning. You typically don't get a lot of lightning in hurricanes unless it's really starting to crank and intensify. And that was very clearly visible as Aaron was going through that process back over the weekend and early this week. You can see those lightning flashes there from satellite illuminating the eye wall.
And I think Aaron maybe caught a couple of people maybe up in North Carolina a little bit by surprise because we always knew it was going to be offshore, but it actually has prompted evacuations. We've been covering this, giving you the first alert, and it's evacuations for the Outer Banks. Surprise when 15 to 20 foot waves are coming in, you have to.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not so much the intensity of Aaron there on the Outer Banks. It's just primarily because of how incredibly vulnerable the Outer Banks are. If you've ever vacationed up there, you've without a doubt driven on Highway 12. It's the only road up and down the Outer Banks of North Carolina. And there are a lot of spots along Highway 12 where it's just a couple of feet between you and the ocean and a couple of man-made sand dunes. And they obviously are doing their best to try to keep that open, but with the likelihood that it's going to be shutting down and probably getting washed out in spots today and tomorrow. That's the reason for those evacuations.
Yeah, of course, you move all the way down from North Carolina, even into our neck of the woods. The big story is the rip currents and rough surf basically for us all the way up into the Northeast. We're dealing with dangerous rip currents, and there's high rip current risk, and then there's danger. And I mean, these are the ones that pull you out pretty quick.
Yeah, absolutely. So much energy involved with the swell from Aaron approaching our coast that tends to really pile the water up right on the beaches, and that water, as it's trying to get back out into the ocean, creates those really strong rip currents. You probably heard we had almost 100 rescues just up the beach in Wrightsville Beach. That was back on Monday, and of course that rip current threat getting even worse. Good news is kind of keeping an eye on the beaches yesterday. Around here, not a lot of folks in the water.
Yeah, it's always good. And of course, we're also keeping an eye on the beaches, especially when you look up into North Carolina. I think we're going to be keeping a very close eye. Here's new video for you today of what it looked like last night near sunset. This is well before Aaron comes in, but this is really going to be the scene, I think, as we go into the next day or two.
Yeah, it certainly is. Even that high tide yesterday evening brought water onto Highway 12. You see those houses there kind of sitting on the beach. The vast majority of those have long since been abandoned, but we're probably going to see a couple of those probably falling victim to the ocean as we head through tomorrow, thanks to the surge, which may potentially reach up to 4 feet, and really just the battering waves. As you mentioned, 20-foot wave height is going to be crashing on shore to the Outer Banks tomorrow.
Yeah, certainly going to be a storm that, won't pose landfall. We've known that, but still going to bring some impacts. And remember, this is why we talk about don't focus on the cone. Impacts go so far out. All right, let's talk about Aaron and the latest. And kind of for those that are here, maybe you're visiting with us, you saw us tweet this out. Welcome into Weather or Not. This is once again a pretty impressive system moving its way through.
Yeah, just imagine when I was looking at this morning, just imagine if we didn't have the modern technology of forecasting and you saw that satellite picture, what a terrifying view that would be. Just massive Aaron out there. As expected, it has really grown in size despite the fact that it's actually come down a little bit in intensity, 100-mile-per-hour winds, but it's a big area getting those winds.
And important to note here too, because we've been seeing it in the fear-mongering posts, you'll notice the movement, it shifted overnight. It's no longer northwest, it's now north-northwest. It will be north later today, then north-northeast. Everything is going as planned, and this is what we expect.
Yeah, going absolutely as planned. No weird, strange wobbles, no hard left turns, no landfall, but again, just really impressive satellite view here this morning. And let's talk about where we go from here with future radar. Again, you can see it out there. We're just going to see some of the high, thin clouds from Aaron overspread the area as we head into this afternoon, into this evening. but you can see it marching by our coast, making its closest pass overnight, 300 to 400 miles offshore. And then by the time we wake up tomorrow morning, passing just off the Outer Banks of North Carolina, Nags Head down to Hatteras, Ocracoke, Rodanthe. Those areas going to be getting in on the tropical storm conditions tomorrow. But again, it is mainly a surge and wave issue there on the Outer Banks.
Yeah, certainly going to be a breezy one with the clouds. And let's talk about the waves, because when we go into not only your current wave height, we're talking about the waves picking up already out there. These waves, as we go throughout the day, only going to continue to get more intense.
Yeah, there's two buoys out there that are really going to be fun to watch. Notice that 11 feet just off of Myrtle Beach. That is Frying Pan Tower out there over the Atlantic Ocean, about 40 miles due east of Myrtle Beach. It always gets some rocking waves. They're starting to come up. And then that 9-foot buoy there just south of Hatteras, you know what that one's called?
I do not.
That one's called Frying Pan.
Oh,
yeah,
the
Frying Pan Tower out there off of Hatteras. That one also going to be picking up some monster waves late today.
Yeah, and you'll notice some of these are going to get up all the way to 30, 40 feet. But we'll go ahead and show you what the peak wave height will be. And notice how, man, look at the center.
Yeah.
To see white on this
Yeah.
just shows you. I've seen some model guidance this morning, and we were talking about this. 55-foot wave cannot be ruled out as this storm just continues to bring, once again, the worst of it offshore, but still 20-foot waves there up in the Outer Banks. Let's talk about our alert boards, because we knew we'd be dealing with high surf advisory, the dangerous rip currents, but the coastal flood advisory came in overnight for you, and that is because of high tide approaching this evening. No stranger to this, but we could see some minor flooding at some of those spots.
Yeah, Cherry Grove, Garden City, parts of Surfside Beach, the tree streets as we call them in Surfside, and down into Pawleys Island, the causeway there in Pawleys Island, as well as Garden City, probably going to be under a bit of water. Been saying for a couple of days, if we get any coastal flooding, it's going to be sort of on par with what we would see from typical king tides. And that's what we're going to be seeing. Not huge water level rises, but certainly some water in the streets.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about the rip currents. I think that's the one that leads the way. It's the one that, unfortunately, I think we're going to be hearing rescues again today, rescues again tomorrow. Did see a lot of surfers out this morning. They're enjoying it as safe as they can. Enjoy the waves. Be careful doing so. But the rip current risk, for those that are here maybe thinking about weekend plans or even Friday, it will start to at least kind of get back to a normal feel by Friday and into our weekend.
Yeah, we're certainly going to see those wave heights again, peaking late this evening, overnight tonight, 6 to 9 feet. That's big for around here. We don't get big waves around here, so 6 to 9 feet is certainly impressive. And then notice quickly diminishing by Friday down to 2 to 4 feet. Rip current threat starts to come down, and by the time we head into the weekend, I think we're probably back to our typical sort of calm state. Nice water, small waves, easy going.
And I know a couple of people, you're probably hearing the coastal flood advisory. Let's take a look at this real quick just to kind of ease your mind. It's low, 1 out of 5 on our scale. We've talked about those trouble spots. High tide's going to be at 6:15. I usually say about an hour on each side if you're going to see issues. 7.2, Spring-Made Pier, 7 feet is minor flood stage. Good news, and I threw it on here for us, winds are actually coming away, which should help. Doesn't mean that we won't see some coastal flooding, but it won't enhance it as we head into tonight.
Yeah, so again, just minor flooding there from Aaron heading into this evening. I had fun with this, but this is one of my favorite sort of sub-subjects.
I love it.
In college, bathymetry.
Bathymetry. Can I have the place of origin, please? Oh, bathymetry is all about, and for people that don't know, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
All about the surface underneath
Yes.
the ocean. And think about it, there are some instances, and we'll talk about ours here, where your surface below the ocean can actually help you in storms. We're kind of one of those fortunate spots.
We are, especially when it comes to the wave heights. You know, we were just showing the buoys offshore. They're going to be up to 16, 18, 25 feet. That's 30, 40 miles offshore. Not bad at all. Well, what happens to those waves? How do we end up with only 6 to 9 feet waves on our beaches? And that all has to do with the bathymetry of our offshore waters. We're lucky enough that we actually have a couple of shoals, which are basically sort of some shallow areas. Basically, you can almost think of them as underwater sand dunes, like sandbars out there. Those shoals and those sandbars absorb a lot of that wave energy. Those massive 16, 20-foot waves actually break for the first time out there on those shoals, and then we sort of get the leftovers.
Yeah, I think, too, people always think that the wave is above the water when it's actually the entire fluid motion. So these kind of cut it in half. allow it to break, and then they recirculate. If it weren't for these, well, you would see some of those waves that you see out in eastern North Carolina,
right,
where it's always surfs up, especially this time of year.
Yeah, for sure. So thankfully, those shoals, again, kind of help us out. And just in a general sense, even on normal days, keep us from seeing the extremely large waves here on our beaches.
There's your science lesson is
bathymetry. I love it.
Professor Jamie Arnold takes you in. Let's talk about the weekend because unfortunately, yeah, we're going to have some clouds around, but how about temperatures?
Yeah.
We get a little front in here, kind of stalls out. Most of the rain still looks to be to our south, but I do think we'll have a couple passing light showers and a calmer weekend for those, especially out there who want to go out to the beach and see the water.
Yeah, it should be an overall decent weekend, especially with a little bit of a break from the heat. But I think what's getting our attention a little bit more is what's coming up as we head into next week. Maybe a real bona fide cold front, potentially a very early hint of fall. Look at that long-range temperature outlook heading into next week.
Yeah, and there's two things that are going to happen here, Jamie, because I was looking at the data this morning. One model in particular, the Euro, goes extremely warmer.
Yeah.
The GFS,
yeah,
pumpkin spice alert for days. And we kind of blended the guidance, but if you were to go on our First Alert weather app, low 80s right now. There are some models even spinning out some 70s, low 60s in the morning.
Yeah.
We'll kind of watch and wait and see what happens.
It's just, that's why we're kind of down there on the southern fringe of the blues on that map. It's not set in stone, but again, we may start to get some of that cooler weather in here. And let's talk about this, the sunset forecast. We've got some amazing photographers around here. Anytime you have a hurricane nearby, you can typically get some absolutely spectacular sunrises and sunsets.
Yeah, and I love this. It's actually going to be kind of a weird one too, because you'll have more clouds behind you as you look toward the sunset.
Yeah.
Photographers are better at this than I am, but you'll be able to get a lot of the color that you really want as you probably look down the beach and kind of get the clouds and the sunset tonight. So if you look directly at the sunset, I would actually tell you to pivot about 90 degrees, and you should have beautiful views, kind of illuminating the lower clouds of Erin.
Yeah, the outer fringes of Erin. Those outer clouds typically tend to be really sort of feathery and some interesting shapes in them. So that's going to be east of us, the sun setting in the west, illuminating those clouds. Looking good. I know I'm planning on being out there this evening for the sunset.
I think I'm going to go out today and then probably tomorrow just to see.
Yeah, even tomorrow morning might actually be a pretty decent sunrise too.
Can't wait for sure. Well, that does it for us, at least for your whether or not update here on Erin. Much more to come. You're going to be out there this evening?
Yeah, going to be out at Springmaid Pier and watching the tide, watching the waves, talking all about that, and then waving goodbye to Erin.
Yeah. See Erin. We can't wait to get back to a little bit more of a normal forecast. We'll have much more on whether or not, of course, talking about Erin coming up tomorrow.